No response.
I believe we're live.
You ready? We're good?
Yes, we
Okay.
thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. And welcome back, by the way.
Thank you, Chair Randall.
So I'm going to call the order to October 8th, 2020, Northern Virginia Transportation Authority meeting. Because we're still in COVID, there is a resolution. The full resolution is in the package that went out, the public package that went out. I need to read two of the therefore clauses of the resolution, and then I will need a motion to accept. Now therefore be it resolved that the Northern Virginia Transportation Authority hereby finds that meetings by electronic means is authorized because the nature of the declared emergency makes it both impractical and unsafe for the authority to assemble in a single location on October 8th, 2020 to discuss and transact the business of the authority listed on the October 8th, 2020 authority meeting agenda, and be it further resolved that the authority hereby finds that meeting by electronic means is authorized because the items on the October 8th, 2020 authority meeting are statutorily required or necessary to continue operations of the authority and the discharge of the authority's lawful purpose, duties, and responsibilities. Do I have a motion to accept the resolution?
Chairman,
Yes.
I move adoption of resolution 20-05, the time and need to conduct a meeting by electronic means.
Thank you. Do I have a second? on
Okay,
the motion?
seconds.
Second.
Second by Mr. McKay. Discussion on the motion. All right, so since we're all here, I'm just going to simply say all in favor. I'm sorry, I'm going to simply say, is anyone opposed? So I won't ask for any all in favor because we should have no abstentions on this. So if there's no discussion, is anyone opposed to this motion? Fantastic. The motion will pass unanimously. Thank you. Authority members, if you have all, and I know that you have, looked at your meetings from the last minutes from the last meeting. Does anyone have any changes to that, to the meetings from the last meeting, which was held on September 10th?
Move adoption of the minutes.
Motion's been made by Mr. Parrish, move adoption. Do I have a second on that?
Second from Delegate Rome.
Second from Delegate Rome. Any discussion on the motion to move adoption of the meeting minutes? Anyone opposed to that? That motion will pass unanimously. Thank you very much. The first item on the agenda for other action will be the approval of standard project agreement for Prince William County Regional Funding 2018-032-3, construct Route 28 corridor roadway improvements. I'm going to have Mr. Longi present, and then I'm going to go to Ms. Wheeler for any comment, and then I have a comment that I should make before we move forward. Mr. Longi.
Thank you, Chair Randall. This is a project that was funded in the 6-year program, and it's coming forward for its routine standard project agreement in accord with the NVTA policies. The document in its fullest is attached, is part of an electronic link on your package, and I don't really have anything to add other than it's the standard project agreement.
Thank you. Ms. Wheeler, do you have any, would you like to make any comments about this item?
Just that the board voted for it and we would like to proceed with it.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to comment about this item? I will call on people who represent any parts of Prince William first, and I will first go to Mayor Parrish.
Thank you.
Yes. I appreciate it very much, and my statement would be very, very short. The City Council has taken this up and voted unanimously to move forward with this.
You're done?
That's it.
Let's see, Mayor Bishop, do you have any comments?
I'm sorry, did you call on me? I couldn't hear.
I did, Mayor Bishop,
I beg your,
yes.
okay. Thank you very much. Our governing body also voted unanimously to support this. Very, very glad that it's going to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Delegate Rome, do you have any comments?
Just briefly, Madam Chair, thank you. My comments basically mirror what I said in September in terms of my concerns about Basically whether the alternative to the meeting on 28, not the one that has been discussed before, but basically the extension of Wells Street. That's something that I think should be more further considered, at least. And so, even though I very much expect this to pass tonight, I'll be voting in opposition. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mayor Wood, do you have any comments?
No comments, Madam Chair.
Okay. So then I'm going to go down the list and just to make sure no one else has comments about this item before I make comments myself. Mr. McKay?
The only comment I would make is we did hear from some folks today, kind of late, but we did hear from some folks who were concerned about the process. And as Delegate Rome mentioned, there are some things here that have yet to be settled. And so I just want to be clear that, approving this item and moving forward with this is vital to keep this project moving. But it is by no means a determination of all the individual elements of this project that still have to be vetted, that still have to be talked about in public forums, and that still have to be dealt with as we move forward. I know there's been a number of community meetings already. I know there will be a lot more moving forward, and perhaps someone from the NVTA staff could clarify for us, at least in terms of milestones, where this project is and what type of public input will still be happening as we move forward. Again, I support this item tonight to keep the project moving forward, but I do want to acknowledge that there's still some concern in the community about some of the elements of the project. And as I've reminded some folks, this is not the final action by any means, and there's still a process to go through. So I'm hoping someone on the NVTA staff can in a very short way, describe for us what other milestones have to be reached here on this project.
So I will call the staff. I will call on staff after I call on all the elected officials to speak first.
Great.
Board Member Crystal, do you have any comments on this?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll just note we received some of the same outreach that Chairman McKay was referring to. I did wonder if either our staff knows, or perhaps this is a question for Chair Wheeler or someone else from Prince William. The only thing that caught my eye in that concern, aside from the points about future public engagement, which is Mr. McKay noted will be have the opportunity to play out, but was that the project displaced affordable housing? So I don't know if anyone has insights into that, but I'd love to hear more and see if we can put that concern to rest before we take the vote.
It could have been a reference to affordable housing in that it displaces possibly because the road and the design isn't even built yet. So we don't actually know what it's going to displace, just to be clear. Housing in a mobile home park, 7 out of 200 at this time estimated, and another, I think, 43 homes in an area of Manassas. And,
so it's,
they are homes, yes.
Okay. So, but it's possible that a design, which is at a future date in this project, could be constructed to avoid those impacts?
Not completely, I suspect, but part of the reason we want to get going with the design of the road is to actually find out what the impacts will be, and we can't do.
Absolutely. That sequence sounds familiar in some of the projects we've seen as well. So thank you for that information. I have no other questions.
Thank you. Mayor Wilson?
No other questions. Thank you.
Councilmember Snyder?
Yes, thank you. I too received the email, and I appreciate the clarification from Chairman McKay and the comments from board member Katie Crystal. The only question I have is that there's a mobile home park there, and I'm wondering what specifically the impact on them might be, and is the county going to be working with them to try to reduce that impact? Thank you.
So I will say that we're very aware of the mobile home park. I don't know, we have talked about, can we miss the mobile home park completely? I've talked extensively regarding if we do take mobile homes, making sure that people are compensated very well for their mobile homes, because they have to include moving, the fact that they're actually a fixed structure, even they don't own the land. They are actually treated as a lived dwelled in unit and are, commensurately paid for that. And so if we, other routes take other people's businesses and areas. So there is no way to not impact the people in this area with this project at all. So there will be impact to residents. I think we've always known that. And the goal is to mitigate that and design the road and see what the Army Corps of Engineers have to say and make sure that people who are there are taken care of as much as we can possibly give them.
Thank you.
Mr. Meyer.
I have no further questions. My concerns have already been expressed by others, but I will support this at this point in the process, with the caveat that there's still a lot of public input that still needs to be heard. Thank you.
Senator Boysko?
I don't have any further remarks to make. I concur with the previous speakers. Appreciate it.
Delegate Watts?
No comment. I do appreciate hearing the concerns.
Ms. Hines?
I guess my question is a point of information for the NVTA staff. I understand that we don't yet have a Corps of Engineer permit in hand. And I know that there's a lot of hopefulness that will come. However, just so we're all clear, what happens if the Corps of Engineer permit is not forthcoming?
So I'm going to let Ms. Backman answer all the questions from staff at one time after I go through all the elected officials. So she's taking notes.
Thank you.
Mr. Cope?
No comment. Thank you.
Ms. Curvo?
No comments. Thank you.
And Ms. Mitchell?
No comments. Thanks.
So I did get a letter from a citizen in Prince William County. I don't remember the name. Let me say this. When I was elected, I was really lucky that I had Marty Noe, Jay Facette, and Sharon Boulevard to really kind of help me learn the authority and what it was and all the how it works, all the acronyms, everything. The Prince William Board is a very new board. It's 8 members, 6 of them are new. And shortly after they took office, we all took office, they went right into COVID. And so I don't believe, now let me change that. I know that I didn't spend as much time with new authority members as I wish I had or could have. And so there was some real misunderstanding of how this money works. So when the money was, when there was a scope that was done for the bypass and the money was allocated for the bypass, the Prince William County Board was under the belief that they could deny the money for the bypass and move it to the widening just automatically. I went before the board to let them know that that's not how this money works, that the money that was allocated for the bypass couldn't be moved automatically over to the widening. It just didn't work like that. And to be quite honest, what Prince William County Board chooses to do and how they choose to go is completely up to their board. I will follow the lead of Chair Wheeler and their board. I respect their lead. I'll follow the lead. My reasons for going before their body was to say to them that their understanding of how the process worked was a flawed understanding. We got a letter today from a couple of different groups, including Stuart Shorts was signed onto the letter, who I so respect, that says that we should delay this. If Ms. Wheeler asks us to do that, then okay. But I want to be clear that I have no dog in the fight about which way they went. My only goal was to say that your information that you have, that this money is fungible, is not true. And if you turn down this $89 million, it is very unlikely that after the other project is scoped, you're going to get $89 million on that project, because the other project has a $100 million shortfall, which means that the project readiness score will not be as high, and the other project doesn't give you as much congestion relief relative to cost. So you'll probably get some money, but you probably wouldn't get the whole full $89 million. It's up to them whether they want to do that, take that chance or not take that chance. That's completely up to them. But I felt very bad that their board believes that they can move the money from one place to the other place with no consequences. And one of the things I said was an apology to Ms. Wheeler for not spending more time with her as the MVTA chair, to explain how some of this worked, because it was explained to me by Mr. Noe. And if you know Mr. Noe, you know, he explained it to me for 4 solid hours, right? So, but I didn't spend the time to do that with Ms. Wheeler. Thus, the board didn't know that. Her board didn't know that. So they made decisions on faulty information. When they got new information, corrected information, they made the decision they made. What decision they make and how they make the decision is totally up to the board. But I really thought it was important to make sure they had that information. And I would say to any new authority members, Ms. Rome, Ms. Watts, Delegate Watts doesn't need me, but Ms. Rome or Senator Boyce, whomever else, if I have not spent enough time with you, if you have any questions, you all have my personal cell phone number. Please give me a call so I can explain this stuff to you so that we don't do this again. But I take some responsibility for not having spent some time with Ms. Wheeler in advance of the first vote and someone's confusion that the money was fungible from one place, from one project to the other. So I'll now have Ms. Backman answer any questions that was asked to staff.
Thank you, Chair Wheeler. So what were the questions? No, I'm just kidding. So to get to Ms. Hines' question, if the Corps says no, I do not want to speak for Prince William County. What I do know is that the county did initiate a comp plan amendment for the widening. So they do have that alternative if the Corps says no for the permits required for the bypass. However, I don't want to presume which direction the county will take, but I do want to be factual in that they have initiated the widening for the comp plan amendment. Have initiated the comp plan amendment for the widening.
Right. That really wasn't my question. I'm sorry. It was not what's going to happen about the road. It's what's going to happen about the NVTA's money.
Thank you, Ms. Hines. So what that would mean, because we modeled the bypass and did not model the widening, we would have to Prince William would have to submit an application for us to evaluate and analyze the widening. And then we would have to make a determination, because by law, we are required to conduct certain technical analyses. Primarily, one of the key factors is the congestion reduction relative to cost, because we are required to post that score. So we would have to come in and reevaluate the project.
Again, Monica, I'm sorry to belabor this. I just kind of want to understand the sequence. If they don't receive the Corps permit, they cannot build the bypass. This project that we're approving to move forward today would have to be canceled and another project submitted in the next round, or do we do something special off cycle?
Well, I will say that really is the authority's decision if you choose to do something off cycle instead of waiting for the next funding program update. But either decision, whether you choose to do that or wait for the next funding program update, staff, we would have to run the model and undertake the technical analysis.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. I believe Chairman McKay had some questions regarding some of the milestones. It's my understanding that Prince William County is preparing to issue the RFP for design so that some of the questions regarding design can be answered and evaluated. The design work will begin in early next year, and I think they're looking to end that in 2023. Regarding the Corps permit, I think they are anticipating submitting permits to the Corps at the end of next year, and they should hear back, or I'm saying end of next year, but late 2021, it could be 2022, and I think that's a 60 to 90-day response time from the Corps. Prince William has told us they anticipate having numerous public meetings in Prince William County and in Fairfax County as well.
And if I could just add one thing, one of the things that people don't realize is that we need the road designed 60% in order to apply for the Army Corps of Engineer permit. And so it's not like we can apply for the permit and then design the road. We need 60% of the road designed before we go for the Army Corps of Engineer permit, which is something some people aren't aware of. I just thought I'd add that. Thank you.
Randall, you're on mute.
Hadn't some money already been spent for the design of the bypass?
I do not believe so.
Prince William has been awarded some previously funded monies on this project. The bulk of that money was to do some study work. So one of the reasons why they are trying to get this SPA executed, because they do want to use a portion of that $89 million to do the design work that's necessary.
Okay. Does anyone else, because I want to make sure everyone has asked all the questions they want to ask. I know that there's probably quite a few people watching this meeting, and I want to have every possible question asked before we take a vote. Does anyone else have any questions, especially Ms. Wheeler? Do you have anything else you want to say or close with?
No, that it's been a long time project. And I think people were sort of unaware of all the meetings that we have had and all the input that we've had starting back, 4 or 5 years ago. And we have had a lot of public input. We have heard of the people concerns that people expressed to, others in an attempt today. And we are aware of everyone's opinions on the subject, I believe.
Okay. So since I know we're going to have at least one person who's going to oppose on the vote, I'm actually going to do a roll call vote. If I do not believe the vote's going to be unanimous, I think a roll call vote is in order while we are in COVID. So, because everyone can't see everyone on the screen, so I just want to make sure everyone. I'm calling each of you by name. So, is there a motion to be made? Ms. Wheeler, would you like to make a motion?
Yes, I move the approval of the proposed standard project agreement 2018-032-3 Prince William County construct Route 28 corridor roadway improvements in accordance with the NVTA's approved product description sheet as appended in the standard project agreement and authorize the executive director to sign on behalf of the authority.
I second the motion.
So the motion was made and by Ms. Chair Wheeler and seconded by Mayor Parrish, who is also the vice chair of the MVTA. If there's no other discussion on the motion, I would do a roll call. Mayor Parrish.
Yes.
Chairman McKay.
Aye.
Chair Wheeler.
Aye.
Member Crystal.
Aye.
Mayor Wilson.
Aye.
Councilman Snyder.
Aye.
Mayor Rischel.
Yes.
Mayor Meyer.
Yes.
Senator Boysko.
Aye.
Delegate Watts.
Aye.
Delegate Rome.
No.
Ms. Hines.
Aye.
Mr. Culp.
Aye.
And I am an aye as well. That motion will pass 13-1 with Delegate Rome being the person who's voted no.
Thank you all very much. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, let's go to the next item on the agenda. Approval of legislative services contract with the McGuire Woods Consulting. Mr. Lungi, would you like to?
Thank you, Chair Randall. The authority's contract with McGuire Woods is coming to an end this fall. It was a 4-year contract. The authority put out a competitive RFP. It was advertised on the state's EVA system as well as posted to the authority website. We did receive one proposal, which was from McGuire Woods Consulting. We've recapped that in the staff report in the attachment. Since we only received one proposal, we went through a mandatory analysis to confirm that the costs that we were seeing were appropriate. The base cost was well within line with what we were seeing in other organizations. And we did negotiate with McGuire Woods Consulting to reduce the annual escalation somewhat to bring it more in line with inflation factors. The Finance Committee reviewed this at their September meeting and voted unanimously to endorse a recommendation to the full authority.
Thank you, sir. Finance Committee.
Yes, Chair Randall. as Mr. Morgan indicated, the Finance Committee took this up and voted unanimously. Also took this up as well as other matters that you're going to see on the agenda tonight. But this was approved by the Finance Committee or for recommendation to the authority.
Therefore, I move the authority approval of the proposed
Legislative service McGuire Woods Consulting LLC.
Motion's been
Madam
made.
Chair,
Is there-
I'm so sorry to interrupt, but it is nearly impossible to hear Mr. Parrish. I think it may be because those who are in the room are not muted with him when he's speaking, so we're hearing everyone's computers at once.
No, we're muted with him.
You are? Okay. Perhaps I'm the only one who had the trouble hearing him.
Madam Chair, I had a problem with that as well.
It was bad.
Yes, yes, also had a problem.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I move authority approval of the proposed legislative service agreement with McGuire Woods Consulting LLC.
McKay seconds.
Was that better?
Okay. Do I have a second on the motion?
McKay seconds.
Seconded by Chairman McKay. Do I have discussion on that motion? Hearing no discussion and believing this should probably be an unanimous vote, is anyone opposed to this motion? The motion will pass 14-0. Thank you. The next legislative item is adoption of replacement policy 2, conflict of interest policy. Mr. Longi.
Thank you, Chair Randall. This policy came to, it was just time to revisit it. One of the main drivers in the changes is the fact that currently certain NVTA staff are required to do a statement of economic interest twice a year. I think everybody on the authority is familiar with the form. The income and financial measures typically don't change within a year unless somebody wins a lottery. We also took the opportunity to do a lot of code updates and cleanups, better document the process for NVTA staff to recuse themselves if this is an actual or an appearance of a conflict of interest. We reviewed this with the Council of Council, and this policy was one of the first ones adopted by the authority. So the changes with track changes were so extensive that it really looked like a bowl of spaghetti. So we took the approach of offering a repeal of the existing policy with a replacement of the draft that's attached in the package. I'd be happy to respond to any questions.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Longi before I go to Mr. Parrish? Seeing none. Vice Mayor Parrish.
Okay, thank you. As I mentioned before, the Finance Committee had taken this matter up and voted unanimously to move forward and make the recommendation to the authority. So I move authority adoption of the attached proposed replacement of policy number 2, the conflict of interest.
Second from Rischel.
Motion made and seconded by Mayor Rischel. Actually said Vice Mayor Parrish. I meant Vice Chair Parrish. I apologize for making Vice Mayor just now. Discussion on the motion. Any objection to the motion? That motion will pass 14-0. All right, the next item is approval of the proposed revisions to policy 13, investment policy.
Thank you, Chair Randall. As many will remember, in our 2020 legislative program, adding Fitch Ratings to the list of rating agencies that the authority would, and other public entities would be able to use when making investment decisions was one of the 2 priorities for that year. The effort was successful. The General Assembly add that as a permission. So these modifications add that to our investment policy. Also add World Bank bonds and stipulate a procedure for security downgrades and some other updates to the policy. This item was also reviewed at the September Finance Committee meeting and received a unanimous recommendation for authority adoption. I'd be pleased to respond to any questions.
Do you have any questions for Mr. Longi before I go again to Mr. Parrish? Seeing none, Mr. Parrish.
Again, the Finance Committee took this matter up, and I move authority adoption of the attached proposed revisions to policy 13, the investment policy.
Second from Rischel.
Motion's been made by Mr. Parrish, seconded by Ms. Rishel again. Discussion on the motion? Seeing none, is anyone opposed to the motion? That motion passed 14-0. Jeff, we may get this done in 2 hours, actually. Looking good, looking good. And number 9, so you want to go to 9, or Monica, you want to go to 9? Okay. Item number 9, a call for projects for FY 2027, the CMAQ and RSTP funds. Wow, here we go already, huh? Is he on the phone?
Yes.
You are?
Yes.
Oh, yes, yes. Shri, hello. How you doing, sir?
Good, thank you.
Ready when you are.
Yes. So as you know, the congestion management, congestion mitigation and air quality improvement program and regional surface transportation program, both are federal funding programs. The money goes to the states and state allocates it to the various regions based on population and air quality status and other factors. CTB, Commonwealth Transportation Board, had requested NVTA over the years to solicit applications, evaluate, and make a recommendation to CTB on which projects to be funded. And CTB takes the final decision. NVTA recommends the funding program. So every year we do this. We do it for the outer year of the state's 6-year improvement program. So the upcoming call is for the fiscal year 2027 funding. And CMAQ, we have about 23 million and RSTP about 57 million. So together 80 million is potentially available. So this particular will be, we'll have an application deadline of January 15th. Then the jurisdictions have another 15 days to submit quality benefit calculations. And then by mid-February, they have to submit a board resolution supporting these applications. After that, NVTA staff will take a look at all these applications, go through the process of analyzing them and coming up with a recommendation. First, we will, as usual, we will go to the RJAC and then come to the authority most probably in March. Once you approve the recommendations, it will go to CTB and CTB will take the final approval on or before June. That's
just for the record, because we're in COVID, I do want to say what the acronyms stand for that we just mentioned. So when he says CMAQ, it's congestion mitigation and air quality, and yes. Our STP is Regional Surface Transportation Program. I just wanted to get those acronyms out. All right, questions for staff? Do I have questions? Hearing none, I will make a motion. I move the authority approval of the issuance of the call for projects for the FY 2027 CMAQ and RSTP funds. Do I have a second on the motion?
Second, Watts.
Second by Delegate Watts. Discussion on the motion. Seeing none, do I have any opposition to this motion? This motion will pass 14-0. And finally, the approval of RSTP transfer for the City of Falls Church. Ms. Backman.
Thank you, Chair Randall. The City of Falls Church is requesting an RSTP transfer on one of their projects, and this is coming forward to the authority this evening because for action, as the authority has not seen this project before. So because you have not seen the project previously, you will be asked to take action. So what the city is proposing is a transfer of $54,875 in RSTP funds from the Roosevelt Street Sidewalk Improvements Project to the South Washington Street Multimodal Improvements. They're also seeking a transfer of $668,256 in RSTP funds from Bike Share Connections to the same South Washington Street Multimodal Improvements Projects. And lastly, a transfer of $430,000 in RSTP funds from the Bike Share Connections Project to the WO&D Trail Crossing.
Ms. Beckman, where do the RSTP funds come from?
So the RSTP funds are a federal program, and I will note that there's a pot that goes to the Northern Virginia region for us to make funding recommendations on. As Mr. Namphy previously noted, we make the funding recommendations and send to the CTB for final approval. So if you will see in your package as a part of the item, and that would be looking at it on the very end, you see the Falls Church Home submitted a transfer request form, but again, this is needed because this is a project that has not been the receiving project has not been a project previously vetted by the authority.
I only ask because there may be some confusion as how you can do a transfer of money on with RSP funds, but not with authority funds. So I just want to make
that is correct.
Okay. All right. Questions on this? I will start with the mayor of Falls Church first. Do you have any questions, sir?
Thanks a lot. Thanks for the promotion. I was mayor. I'm just council now.
I'm sorry.
Thank you for that.
I keep doing that.
The citizens may not be too happy, but yeah. But thank you. So this is an effort. A couple projects have come in under cost, and this is an effort to move money to multimodal projects. One of them, well, we call it Washington Street, is actually Route 29 and 11, will improve bus service and bus connectivity. And then the other one relates to where the trail crosses streets. So it's really, these are two multimodal projects, and we very much appreciate approval of the transfer. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any questions? Mr. Snyder, would you like to make a motion?
Thank you very much. I move that NVTA approve the reallocation of regional surface transportation funds for the city of Falls Church as requested.
Second, McKay.
All right.
Motion's made and seconded by Chairman McKay. Any further discussion on that motion? Seeing none, does anyone object to the motion? That motion will pass 14-0. We now we're going to go into the discussion items. Ms. Boehner, as you talk about the General Assembly session, the special session, can you also do a brief overview on the 2021 session, and if any of that session might contain things that are pertinent to the MVTA that we should be looking at in advance of that session, of the January session?
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Randall, and thank you, members of the authority, for allowing me to work with you for another few years. Special session, it's not over. The budget is the main topic to be finished. What we'll be looking for as an authority and from a transportation perspective is that both the House and the Senate have the flexibility language for CTB to help them keep projects moving forward, and we're hoping that will continue to move forward. But for 2021, I think it's fair to say that COVID, response to COVID's impact on on our economy, criminal justice reform, racial equality matters, and healthcare will continue to dominate moving into the short session that will start in January of 2021. It's not expected to be a transportation focused session. However, the authority, as always, needs to be mindful and be careful that our dedicated revenue sources, which again, we succeeded with all of your help in getting an additional $50 million per year of dedicated funding returned to us is just to be mindful that we are not looked at again as a way to solve other important but challenging problems. And so the Governance and Personnel Committee talked today about language that we would jointly adopt that could be reflected in not only the authority's agenda, but that of the member jurisdictions, that just puts it out there that, the authority is doing good at work. We need our dedicated revenue, and that it should not be diverted or mucked around at all. And as you all know, of the 102 that got diverted, we're roughly up to something about 70 million or so that we've managed to recoup over the last couple of years. There's still a chunk of about $32 million left, but clearly because of economic pressures, that's unlikely to be something that we'll be able to discuss in 2021, but we should make sure that the authority can continue to do its work by maintaining the dedicated revenue sources we currently have. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Well, thank you. And truthfully, hold on, I'm still Miss Rome, Miss Boysko, Miss Watts, it is, I believe, very possible that you guys are not even going to have a break. You're just going to go from the special session right into the regular session. It's only 3.5 months away, right? So you're not that far off. So last night, the Loudoun County Board started working on our 2021 legislative program, and our very first funding priority again this year is to fully restore the money that was taken from MBTA. I actually asked that we extended that, and also said that the General Assembly will not divert revenues from MBTA funds for any reasons not specific to House Bill 2023, passed in 2013, and their provisions therein. We will send you the exact language that Loudoun used and to all of your counties so that you can possibly adopt it. But I think it's important that we say that can you mute yourself? You're not muted. Somebody said. I think it's important that we say that we want all money returned eventually, but we also don't want any more money taken out. And last year in the General Assembly, when we went down there, I remember, and Jennifer, we talked about having some type of protective language, but that never happened. And we were kind of put off from doing that. Knowing that any General Assembly in the future can change that, I wanted them to have to jump through another hoop to change it. So we didn't get protective language, and especially with COVID and all that's going on, I am desperately concerned that we not be seen as a piggy bank, because if money comes out again, what happens is it comes out and then we are re-taxing ourselves again, because even though, we have money that will be going back in, some of that will be local tax funds again. And I do not want to have this kind of revolving door of money come out and Northern Virginia taxes itself to get that money back, and then again and again. And so I would like the authority member jurisdictions to really press to the General Assembly that we would like for that not to happen again. And I feel much, much, much more confident during this General Assembly session having the authority members, having the General Assembly members on the authority that we have right now versus the ones that we had last year. So I'm really very, very confident that I don't believe that will happen, but I just want to make everyone aware that Loudoun did put that in our, we will be putting that on the legislative program for 2021. So any other questions for Tracy, for Ms. Boehnert before we go on? Nope, okay. Then Finance Committee report. Do you have anything you'd like to add, Mr.?
Just have one item. Thank you, Chair Randall. Obviously, the authority has gone through most of the things that we took up during the last Finance Committee meeting. I would like to call Mr. Longy in a brief fashion to go over what is on page 2 of the chart that shows the numbers that for each of the jurisdictions on page 2 of the Finance Committee activity report. Just briefly.
Yes, and I'll ask Margaret to scroll down so that it's in your package so that we can see it on screen from the staff, page 2 of the staff report, Margaret, the table close to the bottom. I think I see it coming up now. Thank you. That's perfect. As we were preparing the financial statements, Ms. Teal's diligently been working on numbers with the auditors that meet all of the accounting and disclosure requirements, but that's a very kind of heavy financial document. So we thought we would take the time to actually pull some of those numbers out and present them to the authority in a kind of a quicker to read and hopefully easier to understand format. What this table shows is it shows the amount of funding that the authority has dispersed from 2014, or not dispersed, but has programmed from 2014 through 2025. You'll see the jurisdictions in the far left column. The next column is the 30% money. These are the 30% monthly distributions. This only is for years 14 through 20. And to just walk you through City of Alexandria for that period, fiscal 14 through fiscal 20 has received $43 million in 30% distributions. Looking at the 3 counties that have towns, it's a little bit more complex. Looking at Fairfax County as a whole has received $268 million over those years. $6 million of that goes to the town of Herndon, $4 million to the town of Vienna, so the county itself netted $257. So you can look at your jurisdiction and see for the years that we've concluded fiscal years, a total of $620 million has been dispersed in 30% funds. We also looked at the regional revenue project funds. Now, this goes through all years that have been programmed, which is a little bit longer. That's 2014 through 2025, the action taken a couple months ago by the authority. Again, with looking at the City of Alexandria at the top, Alexandria has received $177 million in regional revenue funds for projects within their jurisdiction. If you go over one column, you'll see that the combination is $220 million for Alexandria. Again, looking at counties with towns in them, and using Fairfax because it's the first one on the list, Fairfax has received $932 million in regional revenue funds, 70%. 12.5 went to projects in Herndon, 2.3 went to projects in Vienna. So the county itself had 917. The total amount of funding going to Fairfax County, including the 2 towns, is $1.2 billion. So we put this chart together as a way that you could look and see the financial benefit, the funding benefit for your jurisdictions through the 30 and 70%. Towards the bottom of the table, Margaret, if you could scroll down a little bit more, we have other funding recipients that we really can't put a single geographic presence on the funding that those entities received. NVTC, $838,000, VRE, $63.4 million, WMATA at $22.4. However, we do footnote saying that WMATA has received $174 million, or WMATA projects have received $174 million through the funding. So those entities represent another $126.6 million. So you can tell the numbers just keep adding up, which is nice. On the far left, summary totals, just to kind of recap, if we look at the 30%, $620 million, regional revenue funding at $2.5 billion. That includes those other funding recipients. All funding for this period is a total of $3.1 billion. It's I think, a pretty good milestone for an organization that is one of the youngest government units in Virginia. And with that, I'll be pleased to respond to any questions.
And Chair Randall, I was thankful that the staff put this together because it was an easy way for us on an individual jurisdictional basis, or for that matter, other recipients, to take a look at the impact of the revenue that's being raised here in Northern Virginia being spent on projects here in Northern Virginia. And one of the reasons, quite frankly, that several meetings ago that I called the legislation that created the congestion relief relative to cost brilliant. And it's making a difference here in Northern Virginia. And obviously, it's important to all of us. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mayor. Any other comments or questions for Mr. Longi? Okay, wonderful. Mr. Wilson, you actually have an update for the Planning and Programming Committee for us, sir?
I do. Thank you, Madam Chair. The Planning and Programming Committee, which is of course, the best committee of the Northern Virginia Transportation Authority, on September 20th. And
they're all equally good. They're all equally good. I like them all. They're all good.
Not true, but it's okay. Madam Chair, sometimes you're incorrect. We are the best committee, and we did meet, and we had a update on transaction and a couple of things I want to highlight. There was a really good slide presentation that I think we sent out to the entire authority, and I believe it was also went to NVTC as well, which kind of looks at the overall COVID impacts both on ridership as well as it's extremely
Hey, Justin, you keep going out. Is anyone else having trouble hearing Justin? Is it just me? No. The internet connection went down. Justin, are you still there at all? Is it because everyone has frozen?
We have broadband issues. You better use some COVID money for broadband connectivity.
I know. I'm not.
Okay, there you go.
Can you guys hear me now?
Okay.
We can, yes.
Yeah.
But not now.
But not now, right? So it's is it an arc? Let me try this. Katie, can you hear me?
Yes,
Okay,
I can hear you.
so it's on his end.
I think it's on Justin's side.
It's on his end. Okay. Justin, we're gonna come back to you. We're gonna come back to you. Thank you very much. We're gonna go to the Planning Coordination Advisory Committee report from, did they have a meeting?
They
No.
did, and the report is in the packet.
Reports in the package, okay. And then the Technical Advisory Committee reports in the package, okay. We're gonna go to Monica. Do you have any comments that you'd like to make?
Well, thank you, Chair Randall. As Mayor said, I would like to draw your attention to one item in my
Can't hear Monica now.
If she was using your audio.
My apologies, I was on mute. The one thing I would like to draw your attention to as part of my executive director's report is that there will be a Route 28 widening groundbreaking for the city of Manassas. This will be in person. It will be held on October 26th at 10 a.m. in the city of Manassas. I will note that this is the sole MBTA funded project in the city of Manassas, and so this is our first groundbreaking. And we do have authority members, Mayor Parrish and VDOT District Engineer, Ms. Quervo, will be on hand to give remarks. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair, may I add?
Yes, sir. I see Justin.
If I may add, this is how, to Monica's words, Ann Wheeler, if you're able to be there, this project will serve many of your citizens very, very well.
I was just looking at my calendar. I know that it's been sent out before, and I was just looking at my calendar and seeing if I could go, and hopefully I'll be able to. Thank you.
Take care.
Now it's time for chair's comments. I feel like I should have comments because Marty always did, like every time.
Marty always good.
But but I don't have any. So
You don't have some obscure story to tell us from 50 years ago, like he used to?
I don't.
I think that was your comment, Phyllis. That Marty always had comments.
Were you not chased by a bear while hiking?
No meaningless appliance jokes.
I live a boring life like all the rest of the nerds in this meeting. I got nothing, but I will go back to Justin, who's come back on for the rest of his report.
I'll just be very brief since I'll probably get and I think this is some effort by Jeff to cut off our broadband in Alexandria. So the bottom line is it's an extremely sobering report. I encourage you to take a look. It shows the devastating impact on transit ridership, certainly with Metro Rail as well as Metro Bus. And obviously that has that filters down to our local systems as well. And so certainly our local bus systems are seeing all that. And I'm sure you know that as well. I think one of the conversations we did have is, this is an opportunity as well to explore opportunities we might have for possible reallocation of some of our commuter capacity to serve other needs in the intervening time. I think all projections show that we're likely a year off of having a significant restoration of transit ridership and have a lot of capacity we are funding for the next year that will not be utilized. And I think it's a conversation that we're certainly having in Alexandria, and I think everyone needs to be having as we look at this capacity. So a sobering report, take a look at it. I encourage everyone to look at that. And we'll also be talking some more about some of the objectives around transaction, and we'll have a mission statement out and everything like that. So more to come on all that, but that's my report.
So Justin, we were talking about this. I was talking about this last week. I forgot to whom with, and two things. One, I think we're a year out if we're lucky, because I think we have to do two things. One, help people understand that transit can be safe, or transit is safe in COVID. That's the first thing. And two, I do believe that employers have realized that teleworking works, and in fact, can save money. And so they're going to save money on leasing the buildings. They're going to save money on paying tolls and all types of things, parking and all types of things. So I'm not sure if we're ever going to be back to post-COVID numbers on transit. In some ways, I really hope so, because, one, I want transit to work, and two, that will still be less cars on the road.
Well,
But it is pretty interesting.
Well, and I think we also have to acknowledge that what this also shows is it reveals significant socioeconomic divides in our transportation modes. And, while we've seen a significant drop on the Metro bus side, it's not been as significant on Metro Rail. And I think the same can be said for some of our local bus systems as well. And so you are left a lot with a lot of the transit dependent riders who are still riding. And quite honestly, could use some additional service in some areas. And so I think this is an opportunity for some trade-off discussions. And so I think that's my hope, that the lesson that we take from this.
Well, I agree. And I think COVID has revealed so much about our society, to be quite honest. So I agree. Anybody else? Any other questions to Justin? Yes.
Madam Chair, so I want to thank staff. Really, the presentation was phenomenal, but not only does it raise questions about transit, but it raised questions about highways. What kind of highways, with so much more local pedestrian and biking activity? So it's not just limited to transit. It's like all across the board of all the transportation modes. So it's very clear that it challenges what we have done and are doing, but it's a little harder to see the opportunities right now. But I think it's a collective set of issues we're really going to have to grapple with.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think, to kind of pile on Councilmember Snyder's comments, because I think they're very apt. We also saw some of the divide between the restoration of traffic volumes on some of the free roads but not on some of the pay roads. And so to the extent a lot of the free roads are more available now, folks have been seeking those out. So
Yeah, including me. Yeah, absolutely. All right, so authority members, we have right now, we're going to have a closed session tonight. And so otherwise the agenda, except for a closed session, is complete. So let me say that the authority, as we go into closed session, for the people who are watching on YouTube, the live feed will now end due to some technical limitations on the platform. We will reconnect on the feed in a little while. So please refresh your page to tune back in. But authority members, hold up. I need to read us. Well, let me do this. Before I read us in the closed session, let's actually take 5 minutes for everyone, get up, stretch, break, and then I'll come back in, read us in the closed session, and we'll go from there. But let's take a no kidding 10 minutes. No kidding. So no kidding 10 minutes. Come back, and then we're reading the closed session. Okay. Thanks.